Ready?
I want to check it out.
This house is cool.
I do. I want to see it.
It's 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock. This is the Sutton School Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with the Citizens Forum. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. We have the minutes from July 23rd and the bill schedules from June 30th, July 26th, August 7th, August 16th, and August 23rd.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is a school safety update from Mr. Friend and our school resource officer, Officer McGee.
No, no.
But you're gonna wave them over.
Welcome.
Close enough. He really likes me.
Nancy Doherty, Neil Rebecca.
Planning.
Consent agenda.
Oh.
Hi.
They came here to talk about the bus.
Do you want to back up?
I don't know what to do.
Okay.
I could take a break. I mean, I've been working really hard.
If Officer McGee will agree to a break, we'll reopen the Citizens Forum for some folks that just arrived.
Works for me.
Terrific, thank you. Lisa.
You're coming here about the bus, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My name is Nancy Doherty, and this is my son-in-law, Neil Rebecca, and his daughter, Shaylin Rebecca, and the bus stop is the issue we're addressing. I had started with the principal of the school back in May, and I had expressed my concerns to Principal Miriam that my granddaughter, his daughter, is entering kindergarten, and our concern was with the bus stop being safe. And so my request to Principal Miriam, when I went in April to talk about this concern, I then put it in an email to her on May 7th, and she received a negative response. I'm actually not sure from who, but she did forward the request. Following that, on May 14th, I requested a on-site safety inspection. 42 McGuire Road is, I think you said as far away as you can be.
I think it's the furthest point away from the school.
Right now, Uxbridge, right?
Yeah.
Correct,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
And, you know, going down that street to the four-way stop is treacherous. The cars move fast. There's really almost not enough room for two cars to pass. Adding to that is the concern that to step off the street, you really can't in places, because it's, you know, going up like this, and so that's a concern. I really appreciate that when I requested an on-site, is this Officer McGee? When I requested an on-site safety inspection, Superintendent Friend and Officer McGee accommodated us. We didn't get to chat at that time, but on the phone we've had several conversations, and although it is not a good situation as far as, you know, safety concerns with getting to this, not only getting to the four-way intersection, which is very close, it's just that can't get there safely. It's also a concern about the actual four-way intersection. I have seen buses, I don't know if they were middle school age, I'm not sure. I've seen the bus stop at that intersection. And what I've observed is that they go through the stop sign and they're like angled, and the kids get off basically in the street. The option would be either you stop at the stop sign before you go into the intersection, which would mean that the kindergartner getting off would have to cross the street. So I can understand why you would angle so that, that didn't have to happen, but, so here's the bus, here's the house. You'd still have to, get far enough away from the bus, but you can't walk beside the bus. You never walk behind a bus. And, so you'd get off and be on the wrong side of the street, or the bus could pull all the way through. And then you have to walk beside or behind the bus. And so, as much as I appreciate that, to resolve it, there was a new stop placed at McGuire and Clover Hill Road. It just isn't a safe option. And I don't know if there'll be other students getting on there or not, but for our purposes, it doesn't matter. It's not a safe option. In fact, I looked up something on, the Department of Education, and they consider a four-way stop one of the least desirable bus stops. And so we're kind of left with, do we have a next step? I mean, I really appreciate that I've been able to talk to, I started with the transportation officer, and then several conversations with Principal Miriam, and several conversations with you, and that particular bus stop is not safe. I'd like to now, considering there may be other options, I'd like to have my Shaylin's father, Neil, address, perhaps another option.
Neil Rubicki, 42 McGuire Road. I'm currently installing a road 500 feet past our residence at 42 McGuire Road. I was told that major concern was the turnaround area for the bus stop. They didn't want to go all the way around the circle, down Rawson, and back up onto McGuire. I'm installing a project 600 feet farther up, and I'm currently installing a road at this time. I didn't know if that would be an option for the bus stop to pull to that location, back into that cul-de-sac, and then pull back down McGuire Road.
So if I can just
I'll defer to
address how
Ted.
this works. This is really not a school committee. You can bring it to the school committee, but ultimately the superintendent is charged with making these decisions. So there are several things that we have to consider, and obviously the safety of every child is very, very important, and I'm going to follow up on what you just mentioned. But as I told your wife, there was no safe alternative. If there was a road that's just past your home that they could turn around safely, we would do that. And we just did that for another family, very similar situation on Central Turnpike. We went, we looked at it. There was a very safe place to turn around. Didn't add to the length of the trip. It's not. That wasn't me. So we always look at that because you're right. We can't always accommodate everything. There's just no way. There are too many streets. It's a huge town. It's a huge land area. But we take safety very, very important. So if that road is built and it's easy to be able to get in and out of, we would certainly look at that and make that, that could easily be an option that we could do going forward. But the way it is now, there's just no way we could go down there. It would just take too long.
Okay. We are installing the road now. When would I request somebody to come out for a site visit to take a look at it?
We'll come down when you think it's
Okay,
deemable to be able to back in with a school bus and it's safe, we'll come down and take a look at it right away.
great.
So it's okay, you will, be able to change a bus stop once everything starts if you feel that it works,
You're talking a minute to a bus route.
right?
6, 7, 8, 10 minutes to a bus route. That's the furthest location in the town. But as I said, we can't always do this. As you saw, if nothing changed where you are, my answer would be, and this is really the answer, it's the parent's responsibility to get a child to a bus stop. We do our best to accommodate where we can, but if we can't, it's our responsibility once the child gets on the bus. It's the parent's responsibility until they get on the bus and they get off the bus. That's how it works. But certainly, if you get that road built, we'll come right down, take a look at it, and
Great.
speak directly to the bus company.
Sounds great.
Officer McGee?
I just got one thing just to keep in mind. One thing that we'll be looking for obviously is on the safety aspect is obviously the road would have to be plowed, salted and sanded. That way, so when we have a bus back in or other people on that, like it's for liability and safety reasons, you know what I mean, there's no injuries or accidents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's something that we have to certainly have to
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Okay.
All right. So I have never actually formally been here to introduce myself. As you guys know, I did start the job rather late last year. I was kind of like once a week for a little bit, on and off when we had enough staff to do so. And on the unfortunate events that happened in Parkland, I started right around March or mid-March. So my name is Officer McGee. I'm an employee of the town of Sutton. I've been a police officer here for the last 10 years. I've taken the oath for the town very seriously. I take this town as it's my home. I don't actually live here, but I love the town itself. So becoming the school resource officer has actually been a really cool thing for me. It's a joy. I get to work with a lot of the kids, and I actually know a lot of the families already through soccer, and my kids went to Pucky Huddle, and we've kind of been semi-embedded in the town for years and years as it is anyway. So it's kind of cool to be able to be the one that's tasked to keep my friends' kids and stuff safe, and the town residents' children safe. It's a task that I take very seriously, as Mr. Friend I think could attest to. When I am in the building and walking around, I'm always looking around trying to see how I could make things better or safer. See if there's something we're missing, some ways that we could do better. I certainly have been welcomed with open arms between all the administration, Mr. Friend, the principals, secretaries. It's just been a great experience for me in the short time that I've been here. This summer, I had the privilege to go to become certified as a National School Resource Officer. And in doing so, I actually got to meet people from throughout the country, from the South, the West, both police and administrators alike. One of the biggest things that in conversation that I've had with these people is the gap of trying to bridge between what my job is as a police officer and working with the administrators. There's usually like some type of a wall to get through. And I've been very fortunate to not have to climb any walls like that. I mean, we've worked very well together, and I really appreciate the openness. And I've made my mistakes here and there, and they've kind of picked me up and guided me down the right path. But it's been a great pleasure. So that opening, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me into the school, because it's a pretty good commitment for a town to designate one police officer's salary and stuff to be in the school. It's in it, but it's great, and it's a really good thing, I think, for the community and children alike, given the low, I guess, spirit towards police officers these days. And it gives us an opportunity to get in there and show these kids that we're not just robots. We're humans. We're here to counsel them, and it's in the title, the school resource officer. I'm a resource. It's not school police officer, it's a school resource officer. So I go in there without the idea that all these kids are bad and like I'm there to like keep them in line and stuff. No, I go in there with the knowledge that there are some kids that have, issues at home, and, past, and they've had rougher roads than other kids, and, it's my job to kind of support them and maybe guide them down a better path than the one they may be going on. That's what I kind of look at in the position, and I take that very seriously as well. So, that said, I'd like to just cover some of the things that we've done in the past since March for security purposes. On the once a week that I was there, it was kind of hard to really kind of grasp what really was going on, in the day-to-day operations and things maybe security-wise that we were missing. One of the biggest issues at both schools that was brought up to me when I first started was the drop-off and pick-up traffic patterns at both schools, which I kind of sat back and I listened to what people were saying. I made some observations of those patterns, and I think I came up with a couple of common sense, solutions. One being at the high school, instead of allowing individuals to take a left straight into the parking lot and head to the circle, we closed that entrance off for cars to come in. They have to enter down by the tennis courts. The purpose for that is, it gives us a longer path, for one, for cars to pull and kind of pull out and get out, basically. Those cars, I sit down there, I try to get them to come through pretty rapidly instead of sitting there and fiddle with backpacks and stuff like that. Try to make it a safe as possible process. One of the things I did notice, as it was pointed out to me, is there were certain mornings that traffic would be backed up all the way to St. Mark's Church. So that's passed through a stop sign, an intersection, and it just a flow of traffic. So we moved the entrance up about 500 yards or 150 yards and opened it up for people to just come in, and it actually slowed people down too, because when they were coming left, taking that first left and headed right to the circle, they're late, they're zipping down there. This way they come in, they have to take a turn, they got to watch for the teachers pulling in and backing in, and once they hit the stop sign, they have to also stop and slow down. So it kind of slowed down the process, but in a way sped it up in a sensible way. It was something that I saw as like, all right, well, why not try it? And at first there was some pushback, but I think it works. I think it works very well. And here's one of the downfalls to the way it was. You'd have cars stopped at the stop sign trying to get out of the school, cars stopped up to St. Mark's trying to get into the school. Now if we have an emergency or something like that, now we have a full congestion there, hard to get emergency apparatus or anything, in or out of that area. So that's why we went with that route. The elementary school was actually really chaotic. I felt bad sitting there watching these kids come out at the end of the day or coming in the morning. Like there's a lot of parking spots blocked up. Some of the staff was parking there instead of parking over, at the lot between the football field and the baseball field. That lot right there, which we've now designated as staff-only parking. The lot by where the playground is now considered parent drop-off parking only. So the teachers are all forced to park in one spot, and that actually opened up about 20 spots, which now, if you go there in the mornings or in the afternoon, everybody has a spot to park. There's not a constant flow of traffic coming around while we're letting hundreds of kids out of the building in the afternoon or coming in. So we kind of have a better idea of, that. We just recently, with the help from the highway department, painted bigger arrows pointing the traffic pattern the way it is. So they come in and they have to follow one straight path, and then it shoots them back out. We had a couple stop signs installed, namely one leaving the elementary school lot onto Boston Road. There was not a stop sign there, so actually just recently the highway department installed that. They painted a white line there for me, and so we got that kind of under control. That to me was a huge issue. And also with the parking situation that we cleared up, I personally, I roam that building, I'm in and out, I walk around the building, I'll check doors and stuff like that. So I kind of know what the facilities look like, and to be able to see cars where they typically are makes me feel really, really good, you know. And not only that, the high school had a parking pass system, and we have stolen that and used it for the elementary and Simonian Center as well as the district offices. Every employee in the town of Sutton that pulls into that lot and parks now has to have a little green sticker that says Town of Sutton School Department. It goes right above their inspection sticker, which it's been asked. I've called a couple inspection stations, and it's fully permitted and allowed to have it done in that spot. They're all numbered. We have logs of whose those tags are assigned to, and I just can't wait for this year for it all to work through, because this is the first year that we'll have every staff member in the town or in the district with the passes. But I feel having that is a good way to account for who's supposed to be where. And if I see a car in the staff area that doesn't have one that might be out of place, I can go up to it now, you know, further investigate and maybe see if there's something up there. Same thing, student parking lot. All the students are now, they're gonna have stickers too that are placed in the back of their windows, top right corner of every student's vehicle. It's red, it's about that big. And again, same exact spot, so when I'm driving around, I can see it. Before it were placards, they would hang from the mirrors, some left them in the center console, some left them on the dashboard. In order to see if they actually had them, I'd have to hunt around and look around. So now, they're in the spot. If I drive around, they're not there, I don't see them. Now I can further investigate to see if that vehicle belongs on property or not. It just makes my job a little more efficient, and I think helps me identify potential issues. Let's see, we ran a couple of lockdown drills this year. One was an announced drill. It being announced wasn't a popular choice by some, but we still did it because we felt it's been a while, and we wanted to make sure that these kids and the staff had the tools in their toolbox to make them succeed. And even though it wasn't announced, they knew the time, they knew when it was going to happen. We still identified issues that we had to take care of, which I thought was amazing. We had some issues with the camera system. Some of the cameras were down. We had an issue with the PA system that was identified, and I'm not going to get into full details about that. I'm going to let the tech guy do that. But we worked diligently. We sat down, had a round table after these things, and discussed these issues that we found. And they were, in my opinion, were significant issues, not being able to communicate what's going on over the PA systems, or not being able to use the cameras the way they're intended so we can see what's going on throughout the campus. So those issues have been identified and resolved. And again, I have to commend everybody that's involved, because we worked together as a team. There wasn't any, well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Sometimes I get the, what do you think, money grows on trees comments, but it is what it is. In the grand scheme of things, we're worried about the safety of the kids, and I full-heartedly feel like the district is on that path. If you drive down the schools now, you'll notice there's new signs. I don't know if anybody's been down there. We have new street signs down there at all the entrances. We have one that honors Mr. Friend. We named it Friendly Way. I figured I'd brown nose a little bit, and I don't know if it's working, but anyway, he's got his own road. We have Memorial Way, which has always actually been Memorial Way, where the buses park. Leading into the high school circle, that's Ramasco Way. And leading into the elementary and Simonian Center, that's called Simonian Way. People ask me why I thought that was important. Well, if there is a threat or something happening at the school with a small agency like ours, a lot of times other police departments show up, and we want to be able to make sure that when we're dispatching the fire, maybe from other towns, and police and maybe ambulance, we can give them a solid area where you're going. Okay, stay on Boston Road. It's going to be your third left. It's called Simonian Way. Or turn on the Putnam Hill Road, your first right, Friendly Way. Follow it down, and there's signs that lead you all the way down. So that was just kind of like a common sense safety approach that I kind of stole from some of these school resource officers and books that I've read since I've become a school resource officer. What else? Let's see.
Training.
What's that?
Training for the staff.
The training. So I, as well as being now nationally certified school resource officer, I went this summer and also got certified in ALICE training, which is a training that this town we've been on board with that for years. Sergeant Sullivan was ALIS certified, Officer Green was certified, and it's just a training program that we're making sure is fully implemented throughout the district. Before, prior to this, it was done at the end of the year. It was like the last priority, I guess. It was like the last in professional development that we finally found room to put it in at the end of the year. I kind of worked and, poked the bear and poked, and now we have it, so it's actually going to be part of our first sessions of professional development. I'm actually doing high school and middle school tomorrow morning, 7:30 to 9, which will be the classroom portion, and then at the next professional development, we're going to do the actual lockdown and go through drills and scenarios. I just saw it as important to be something to give them as a refresher at the beginning of the year. It never really made sense to me why we're going to take all this great knowledge and knock the rust off with what they know at the end of the year, like a month before school ends. So now we're going to do it at the beginning of the year, so it's on their minds. And I do go through the classrooms with them, and I talk to the teachers, and I say, listen, this is your classroom, these are your students. I give you the tools, but I want you to develop the plan. I need each classroom to understand that if something does happen, it's not going to be me there doing it for them. I can give them the tools, which is what the training's for, but I try to have open conversations with them about, you have to make sure you have the confidence that you're going to be able to do this and, get this knowledge to the kids and stuff like that. Another thing that with the trainings and stuff that we're implementing, especially with the lockdowns and stuff like that we're going to do in the future, we're going to do try to get the teachers to do more of a debriefing with the kids afterwards, because sometimes, most of the times at the end of these things, they're just done, and then everybody's back on their way. So one thing that I've kind of learned or seen is that these kids have questions and concerns, and they're legitimate. And I've had, after our last lockdown drill, and it was sometime after Parkland, but these kids had a serious concern for what's going on and for their safety. And I went and actually talked to a lot of classrooms about it, but I think it's going to be important to make sure that after these drills are done, that the teachers can also engage them and say, all right, this is what happened. What do you think about, how it went? What do you think could have been better? What do you think, I think that's an important thing for the teachers to be able to do, not just to have me going from class to class and talking to the kids, but having the teachers to be able to have open dialogue with the kids about it. One thing that I also observed walking around the building, on the outside of the buildings, which I've scared a lot of teachers, and I have had to apologize a lot, but walking around the building and just grabbing doors and they just open, because obviously the Simonian Center and stuff, a lot of their doors are right there on the outside of the building, and they're older, depending on the heat or cold, they get stuck sometimes. So, I've been able to get the teachers on board with that. You have to go up to those doors and physically make sure they're closed once a day at least. And that way I don't surprise you. And I'm just walking around and open the door, and the teachers drop their pens because they don't know what's going on. And it's been a fortunate situation that was the learning process that we went through. But we've got a pretty good solid program now district-wide, where all the exterior doors are to remain locked. All their interior doors are to remain locked. We gave them the magnets so that the way they don't have to keep going and unlocking the door every time a student comes in and out. But, the theory behind all of that is, well, if the doors are unlocked and something really happens, your fine motor skills are going to be down to nothing. So we want to make sure that we take away that fumbling of the keys, the dropping of the keys, where you just open that door, you clear the hallway. If you have to run across the hall, check the bathroom, but then get back in, just knock a magnet out, close it, and then start the lockdown procedure or evacuation, whichever way they choose is the most appropriate. But we're trying to take away all that extra fine motor skills and easier access for people to maybe get in and out of the building. We've identified a couple doors with maintenance, and again, Roger and all those guys, Charlie, and down at maintenance, again, I'm a pain in their butts because I've asked a lot. I've asked a lot from a lot of people down there since I've started, and I've never once got a no. I've gotten a, man, you're killing me, or something like that, just kidding around. But, you know, in the end, we've all worked together and we've accomplished a lot of good things. There's a door at the elementary school that is just old, and it's, you know, it's doesn't close right. So every day I would do my walks, I'd open it up and I'd walk right in. So, well, what do we do? Change the door, or do we change how that door gets entered and exited? So that's actually a main entrance for maintenance at the elementary school and for the kitchen. So we ended up coming up with a binder that now they have to physically, whoever is trying to get in the building, they knock on the door, someone goes, if it's for kitchen, if maintenance guy opens the door, he closes the door, goes and gets kitchen guy lets him in, signs him in, gives him a visitor pass. The visitor now, before leaves, has to go to whoever signed them in, give them that pass, and then he signs them out, he walks them out the door, and they close that door, make sure it's secured. And that's something that's been followed since we implemented it, I've walked around that building many times, just specifically going to that door, and I've never, since we've put that in place, had an issue with that door being open. So with that being the process, we kind of changed it over at the high school too, so now the high school and middle school, if maintenance or anybody comes in, instead of coming through the front door and having to walk to the school to go to them, they now have to go to the back door, ring the bell, in the same process. Whoever lets them in, signs them in, gives them a pass, takes the pass when they leave, makes sure the door is locked. The business is done. It's been just kind of like simple, common sense type of things that, like, we just had to tighten up, you know. We had issues, like, not issues, but, you know, we didn't have somebody like myself walking around like a crazy person asking everybody where their staff passes are. These things right here, they've learned very quick that I'm very persistent, and I'm pretty persistent. Every single person now wears their ID badges, including the people that, well,
Even Durgan?
Durgan, I don't know. I think his machine was broken or something. He couldn't find it, or I don't know. So we made sure every staff member has their passes. Anybody that's in the building that's not a student has to have a pass displayed either on the collar or on the front of their, I don't want it hanging, hidden under stuff. Everybody knows that it's either here or there. It's been a fight with some, but everybody's come around, and again, now we're all on the same page. You know, just the point of just explaining to them the purpose of why. You know, if something happens and we have outside people coming into the building and they're confronted by an adult that doesn't have any identification or anything on them, you know, we want to be able to sort through what's going on as rapidly as possible, and to have to take that like 10 seconds to figure out who this person may or may not be could be a difference between 1 or 2 extra lives if anything happened. And that's kind of my philosophy on that.
Custodians.
This, I'm working on that. That's at the bottom of my list here.
All right, okay.
So there's been a lot done. I mean, I don't know. When I jump into something, and I think the bosses might like it because they don't have to, like, you know, supervise. I just get it done. Like, I find something, I get it done. I find something else, I get it done. I have a whole list of things way beyond this that I want to get done. So next time I'm here, you're gonna have to listen to me talk forever again, and I apologize. So another thing that we've implemented with, 1, the cameras, and 2, rapid entrance into the building for the police are we have all those, the fast cards that we can swipe, the door opens, we get in. Every police car in town now and fire truck in town have those cards. So wherever the threat or incident can be, we can relay to them, all right, it's by this door, enter here. They can take it out of the car, use it. They don't have to worry about going to the office or waiting to get buzzed in. They have it. We check them. They all open the door. Durgan worked his butt off to get that done for us in a very, 3 days? Did well. See, it's a team effort down there. And then as far as the camera systems go, again, the police department, as you guys already know, has full access to the screens if needed be. The TV's not on at the police station at all times. They're not, just watching and seeing what's going on. But in the end, it's there. We know how to use them, and if something does happen, they can go on those and guide people to the right location to try to make whatever is happening, stop as fast as possible. because obviously, it's all about time, it's all about time. Let's see, what else? I don't know if you guys know that we did have, it wasn't a lockdown, it was a stay in place last year. What was it, maybe June, maybe end of May, middle of May? Dealing with a student saw somebody all dressed in black carrying something in their hand. So we didn't know what it was. I got a call on the radio. I went to the area of where the person was last seen, kind of put my police car between both buildings and waited for more of an update. Dan went, checked all the cameras. He did, again, another great job, checked all the cameras for me, so I got real-time information on, all right, this is where we saw him last, I don't see anybody here or whatever. Fast forward, it turns out it was a student helper that was working with the custodial staff. And then then it got my wheels thinking. I'm like, well, I looked at all the custodians and I'm like, they don't really have a real good place to wear IDs or badges, because a lot of the stuff they're doing, they're up, they're down ladders, there's a chance that whatever it could get stuck. Like, any number of things could happen. So at one of our safety meetings, I presented Mr. Friend with the idea of outfitting the custodian staff with a uniform per se. Not the same pants and shoes, but like just a professional looking polo or t-shirt. And I kind of tasked Roger with figuring that out. It's his staff, it's his stuff. I wasn't developing something for him, but just to throw it out there. So he has, and he brought it to EM Screen, and we got a quote for just over $1,000 or maybe a little bit more. It's about $14 or $15 a shirt. His goal is to get each member of his staff 5 shirts, so that way, one gets dirty, they don't have to do laundry every single night. They have a clean shirt. There's two sides to this. One, we have our custodial staff walking around. They're easily identifiable. And honestly, like me being a police officer, the first person I want to see when I go to a scene or something is somebody like a custodian, because they know that building inside and out. They know, they can get me around. And 2, I think it looks a little more professional. Instead of them, one guy's got like a black shirt with, holes in it, or, it presents better. Sorry, my honesty sometimes gets me. You know what I'm saying. So obviously I asked them, and it's obviously budget. I don't know. He's going to present something to you after, but.
Well, what I'm going to suggest to the committee is that this is a perfect use for building use account. That's what we have, a building use account. It's actually $900 to outfit every full-time custodian, and then I wanted to get another 10, 12 shirts for people that come in and do subbing, and I agree with Officer McGee. It does make a difference. I know that after Parkland, we had one of our custodians down at the Early Learning Center, and he was talking to people and directing, but no one knew who he was, and so he had no authority really. But if he has a shirt, then everybody will know that he works for the school department. So what I would be looking for is a vote from the committee, whether you want to do it this meeting or the next meeting, authorizing us to order those shirts and take the funds out of building use. So that's up.
All right, I get it just a little bit more. I'm sorry for taking up all this time, but like I said, we've had a lot of stuff done. I'm proud of the work, and I'm not even going to say that I've done. I'm proud of the work that we've done, because again, it's taken an army. It's been the staff, it's been the administration, it's been the custodians, it's been the IT department helping me every time I forget my password. It's been even the highway departments come down and help me out. They've helped paint the lines, and they painted the arrows, and they got the stop sign in. The fire department, who's been phenomenal, working with the IT department to get these cameras up and running, bringing the ladder truck or whatever in to get the cameras all working. I mean, it's been an army. I've made some observations, I've made some suggestions, but we've, as a collective team, have gotten a lot done in, 3.5, 4 months to end last school year. And we have so much more going on. And again, we're working our butts off together to make sure that this is one of the safest school districts in Massachusetts, and hopefully maybe an example that others want to come to and see how we run it and take that back and make another school system safer. So that's why I have all this to talk about. So that's my apology. One thing that we're going to be pressing into service this year, working at the Simonian Center in elementary school, is now that we got the parking situation cleared up, you know, I've noticed in the mornings parents want to walk their kids into the school. They all walk in that same door with all the same students that get dropped off by the playground. Problem is, you know, we have kids going in, we have adults going in, you know, staff members going in, and it gets kind of confusing who's there, who's supposed to be there, who's, you know. So what we're implementing is, and this is with Miss Merriam, is we're closing that entrance down to just students only. So just the students can go in that door. If a parent wants to walk Johnny or Susie in the building, they have to walk to the front lobby where Jen's office is and literally drop them off there. Prior to that, they would come down the hallway, the parents would congregate in that hallway there, or, you know, and there's kids back and forth, and there's school actively in session, and the parents would stay there for half an hour, 45 minutes, you know, and that kind of like bothered me. Like, I'm like, you know, if you're gonna come into the building, get a pass, you can get a pass, do your thing, get back, return your pass, and go on with your day. But just to congregate in that area, I wanna make sure that these kids have free pass back and forth without the interference of parents and other adults that, you know, don't have any technical business in the building. So I feel like when we do allow just the students to come in, one, it holds the parents, you know, right there. Jen is very, very good about making sure people don't get past her. I think she would chase them down, actually, and jump on their backs before she let them in the building. But that's just my observations. And teachers, you know, it doesn't allow them to kind of sneak in 10, 20, 15, or 5 minutes late. You know, they're here, they have to go through the front door. It holds them accountable, just like we're trying to hold the students accountable, you know. So, and again, Jess and Denise have been very, very open to that, as well as that whole parking situation, which, you know, it gives them kind of flack because some of the teachers come back and say, well, why do we have to park there? We get stuck behind the buses, this, that, you know, every other excuse in the book. And, you know, it's like, well, this is the reason why we're doing it. We don't want kids to get run over in the afternoon. There's reasons why we have this implemented. And, oh, by the way, it's been implemented and technically been in place for years, so it's nothing new. Let's see. One other thing I'd like to point out, that we brought the Junior Police Academy back this year. This year we had the largest outcome of students. We had 26 students start, 26 kids finish. You know, typically you run a program like that, they don't get really that, they're not happy about it because, you know, first thing they do on that Monday morning is do PT, some push-ups, they do some front-leaning lip rests. You know, we make it a little bit harder on them. But, you know, we also made it an enjoyable environment, myself and Officer Billy Jakes, who helped me run that program throughout the week, along with a whole bunch of other people that came and taught and stuff. I'd like to pride myself again to say that it was a successful thing. I got a lot of feedback throughout the week and afterwards via email and phone calls from people saying how much their kids talked about it, you know, and, you know, hopefully their kids can do it again next year, and, you know, now their friends want to do it, and, you know, and we made it more of an educational type thing, as well as discipline, but we weren't like trying to be the Marines either, you know, so we kind of brought it all in. They learned about narcotics, heroin, people overdose. We had a gentleman come in and talk about his paths and his struggles with abuse. We had somebody from the district attorney's office come in. We actually had Mr. Early come in himself and speak with the kids for about 45 minutes or so. So that was a great experience. We had, let's see, we had OUI segment where they get to drive golf carts and, you know, see what it looked like driving them normal, and compared to having the goggles that would kind of blur your vision, you know, to different degrees. We learned about respect. We learned about teamwork. You know, everybody learned that week that they weren't here as a team. They weren't there as an individual. They were there as a team and to learn as one. And I think I'm actually looking forward to doing it again next year. And I have a little thought about maybe doing a second-year program for kids that have already done it, but I have to talk to people and get approval first. But anyway, so that's what I've got for you guys right now. We do have a whole load of other things down the pipeline, but I don't want to spoil it for the next meeting.
So I just want to say a couple things, if you don't mind. He's a royal pain in my backside, and in a
Thank you, I
really
appreciate
good way.
That's how we know we're safe.
It's a really good, he is relentless. He doesn't take no for an answer. And we got a lot of things accomplished because of Mike. But that's one side of it. But for me, a school resource officer has to be, it's all about the kids. You know, he's got the safety end. He's done so many great things for us, but he truly cares about the kids. We've had some issues with bullying. It happens. We're not unique. And he doesn't want any child in our school to have to go through where they're uncomfortable coming to our school. And so he's a partner with us. It's not, and we work together. And, in the beginning I had to bring him back a little bit and talk about who does what. But I'd rather have someone who was gung-ho and really want to dig and really want to help kids than someone who's just sitting back and enjoying the day. He's been amazing, and he's got a lot accomplished. So I really appreciate it, and I want him to spend this time with you. I want him to talk, maybe a little less, but he's done so much that this 40 minutes.
Has it been 40 minutes? It feels like 15.
But it's great to have him on board, and I really appreciate him. He's wonderful.
Thank you. I pride myself in 17,000 to 22,000 steps a day.
That's good.
I'm glad you hit it towards the end, but that was one of the things I want to thank you for, was the police academy was great again. I had, my two daughters went through it, and I think in addition to getting them to really appreciate those that serve and all the people that you had to come in so they could see, what the fire department does, the med flight, the police department, that was just a fantastic experience for them. I heard so many parents rave about it, but I think when you look at school safety, you then build the relationship with some of those students, and it gets you more sets of eyes, and they have a trusted relationship with you, which can only benefit the safety of the school. So thank you very much, you and Officer Jakes and the department.
Thank you for entrusting your kids to us.
Thank you for getting your certifications and presenting yourself as a resource officer, not a safety officer. It's just what Ted echoed was that you're there to talk with kids and to get to know the kids, and you'll be able to spot things with them and be preventative and identify issues before they blossom. And that's so important right now with it's a different world and the pressures that kids are under. And I think Ted said you're eager, you're excited, you're energetic. If there's something you see, please talk to Ted. Please come see us. School safety, that's the priority. So.
Yeah, thank you for being passionate. Because that to me, out of all of this, is huge. Because the kids see the commitment. That's what's going to start your relationships with everyone. So, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
officer.
See you tomorrow. Am I gonna see you tomorrow?
I want to hear what they're going to say. I want to see if they have excuses today.
Okay. Next item is an information technology update from Dan Durgan.
Good evening, thank you. Okay. I'd like to keep mine a little bit briefer, but since my last IT update in the spring, we have a new hire. We brought on Steve Graham to be our network administrator. Steve started in the spring, and along with Kyle, who I have to mention because he's in the back moonlighting on the cable access, have done a great job over the summer. Really, we accomplished a lot. It was a busy summer, but it was a good summer. We were able to get a lot done. So I'll begin with the new wireless. We installed a new wireless throughout our entire district. We doubled the number of access points to one in every classroom. We've added 100 drops. So we literally carpet bomb the place with access points to the point where I have a few extras in my office that we just literally can't find a spot for them. So I'm sure we will once the kids come in and say, the service is a little, but we have them everywhere. And with the new wireless, we were able to enable Wi-Fi calling, which will speak to Officer McGee's safety. The Verizon, Sprint, and AT&T networks are able to make and receive phone calls now over the new Wi-Fi. So the next project that we completed, we installed 32 new smart boards in both the elementary and early learning center. And I'm proud to say that every district in every classroom in the district now has a smart board. It's been a long time coming, but the tremendous commitment from the town through the capital fund to invest, $240,000. We did a 3-year lease over the next 3 years to commit to equal access for all of our students, so they all have access to this technology in their classrooms. So that we're working with the teachers now with professional development. They had a session this morning to learn how to use the new boards. We have one more session tomorrow, more of an in-depth breakout sessions that the teachers can get more involved. But they're really nice screens, no more projectors. They're actually televisions, 77-inch screens that you can they're Wi-Fi enabled. They have half of the boards we purchased are mobile, which they can wheel them to different sections of their classrooms, have a little breakout session over here. Really, really nice feature for them. One of the things that you approved at the last meeting that I attended was the new PA system. We replaced the PA system in the elementary and early learning center due to the last safety drill we had in the spring. Some of the issues we ran into have been nothing new, but this kind of brought it to the forefront, where we were able to kind of get this to the top of the list of things to be replaced. We added 10 new speakers in our cafeteria, which traditionally is hard to make an announcement when there's kids in there eating lunch. They just couldn't hear it. We also added a huge speaker in the elementary early learning center gym. Same thing in the auditorium. We added a horn where I think we may have to adjust it down a little bit. We'll see how it's going to be the first day of school, but the kids will definitely hear the announcements, and that's typically where dismissals happen, so they really need to find the kids in there. Let's see. We installed our new alarm system in the middle school, high school, and we were chasing that issues with the building project for years, and we made it a much simpler, user-friendly system. It's the same system we use in the elementary early learning center, and we hardly ever have issues over there unless it's human error and somebody doesn't put their code in fast enough. So we also installed 2 65-inch smart televisions in the cafeteria at the middle school, high school, where principals can post their daily announcements. Cafeteria manager can post the menu for the day. Kids will be able to stop by and see the messages from the principal. The issues with safety that Officer McGee had talked about, it's just nice to take a minute and how everybody did work together, and the fire department came out with their ladder truck, and we did get interrupted a few times with calls and vacations, but we were able to identify the issue, and all of the cameras outside of the building, while the camera itself, it was weatherproof, the lens was weatherproofed, the housing where the connection was made was not. So we were able to get some heat shrink tape, and I believe we have a handful left to do this for, which I think is scheduled for the next couple of weeks to just seal out the moisture that will get in there. We've proactively done this to all of the cameras, even the ones that were working, because eventually, once the weather gets in there, it's going to be an issue. And this winter was hard on those weatherproofs. So we've identified the issue, and we've resolved most of them. It's just a matter of coordinating with the ladder truck, and when we can get 2 to 3 firefighters out here and IT free, and but really, it's fantastic when the chief says, anytime you need it, whatever you need, we'll make it work, and it's nice in a town like this to use the resources you have, and you don't have to, most of the cameras are 30 feet up, so it's not something you want to use a ladder for. That's all I had for my update. Are there any questions? Or?
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, thank
And
you.
same, I'll say the same thing. If you see something, an idea, please go to Ted, talk to us.
Absolutely.
We're looking in the future now. So,
Yeah, I mean, through the new police department, we're looking at unified telephone system, and looking further down the line, we're going to have a fiber connection between the new police department, the school department, the town. We're looking at a unified telephone system. So eventually, police department dispatch would actually be able to make pages throughout our school. So the fiber network going through town is going to open a tremendous number of doors for us. So.
fantastic.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is fiscal year 18 final budget transfer with Nancy.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Good. So we're not quite ready for the budget transfer at this time. The town accountant hasn't closed out the books. It should happen most likely this week. So at this time, we're not gonna have that for you. And as far as the FY19 budget update, everything hasn't been rolled over. So I don't have that
Okay.
to give you either. So,
Okay.
that's for those two sections.
So we'll get to see you in 2 weeks.
They do have a
What-
couple other things.
Okay. Will
Should be
the
quiet.
would-
Yeah.
We pretty much know where it is.
Okay.
And we just, instead of talking about it tonight and then talking about it again in 2 weeks, we'll just wait till 2 weeks from now.
no
And at
surprises.
the next meeting,
No
to have that
surprises.
for you,
Okay.
and I'll
Good
come up
surprises.
with where we closed out FY18 and have the transfer and balances
Okay. Great.
for you at
Good.
that time.
Terrific. Next item is award bids to the Education Cooperative and French River Collaborative.
Yep. So the Sutton Public School District has participated in the collaborating bidding process several years now with the French River Collaborative and the Education Cooperative. Excuse me. The bids were opened at various dates, through May and June. And based on the results of the bids, the participating school districts agreed on awarding the bids to the vendors that I have listed below. So the Education Cooperative is for our cafeteria supplies. So that's for our frozen food products, milk, and our non-food cafeteria supplies. And you can see the vendors listed for them. And then the French River Collaborative is for our copy paper, office supplies, custodial supplies, and our fuel. And you can see the vendors listed for them. So we're looking for approval to do our ordering through these vendors.
So how do we do for fuel
Okay.
as far as price?
I didn't bring it with me, I apologize. I can bring it to the next meeting.
Just curious.
So does anybody want to make a motion, and then we can?
Yeah. I move to award the bids for copy paper, supplies, and oil fuel to the Education Cooperative and French River Collaborative as recommended by the business manager.
Anybody have any discussion or questions for Nancy?
We've used French River for many years, so.
Yep, yep.
Terrific.
Works very well.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Terrific. Next item is to approve a high school environmental club.
So all this really is you're approving that we can set up a student activity account. We already have the club, but they have those bins outside that we're collecting.
Okay.
And so they need a authorization from the school committee to deposit that money in a student activity account.
Okay.
I move to approve the high school environmental club as presented.
Any discussion? Any
Just,
questions?
Question, you're annually looking at balances on all of
Yeah.
these, and,
Last year I did an internal audit of all the student activity accounts.
right,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And then we hire someone from outside every 3 years.
It makes sense once a year, really, really close to the very, very end of the year, but just to report out that you've looked at all of the accounts. I know that what can happen is we can go several years and there'll be accounts for clubs that really aren't any longer necessary, and
Right.
just nice to clean them up once a year.
Yep.
At our next meeting, we're gonna close the books. We're gonna talk about revolving accounts. Would you like us to just give you an update, the one sheet of where each of those accounts are, just so you
Please.
have a reference point?
Sure.
Please. Sure. Nobody has any more questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
Next item is bus pickup procedures.
So I put that on because this family contacted us and would like to talk about it, and I think it's important that we talk about it, how we go about doing things. So we contract with AA. We've been using them. We have basically the same routes that we've had for the last 4, 5, 6 years. But when a parent calls, I want the community to know that one of us goes out and actually looks. It's either Nancy or myself, Officer McGee. We do take safety seriously, so we want to make sure that if it is an unsafe place, that we do what we can to make the changes. So I asked AA, I said, well, who's the worst town for coming to you and asking you to look at the stuff? He goes, you guys are. So, but I'd rather be the person that's a pain. I'd rather, take an extra minute on a bus and make sure that our kids are safe.
Especially after that incident last year.
Now, on opening, see, you violated the rule, because this morning at the opening, I told all the staff that we're not gonna talk about that this year.
Oh, I didn't get the memo.
So that's how we go about doing it, and and I think parents appreciate it. I think if someone shows up in the school department, actually looks at what we're talking about, it makes a difference. We're small enough that we can do that. So that's all I really wanted to say about that.
Sure.
The only thing I would add is, and I think you pointed it out, it's the right procedures that are being followed. What I like to hear and heard today was that parents who have a concern are actually getting attention from the teachers, from the principals, from the superintendent. And I think it's important that there is a respectful listening to understand the situation. The answer isn't always the one they want, but it should always be heard.
Yep. And it's good that Officer McGee got involved and could help out too, so.
Yeah, he's
It's a big town with a lot of rural streets, a lot of big hills, and there's not every family on every block is, the sites sometimes need to be moved, even if it's 100 yards up or down the hill.
absolutely. I've gone to sites and I'm like, no, your kid's not walking up this hill in the winter. There's just no way, so.
Terrific. Any more discussion on that? We'll move to present notice of meetings.
That's just an FYI. It's posted, but these are our scheduled meetings for the year for school committee.
Okay.
No vote necessary.
Terrific. Next item is to establish subcommittees. I know I would like to have, there's one I'd like to establish. I think Ted has one that you've got a project going on, so why don't we handle that one first, and that will determine how we do the second one.
So this was one of my updates for my report. I'll do it now. The town, the school, we've really stabilized our budgets. We've lived in a very conservative, don't spend mode for since I've been here. And actually, before I arrived here, you were already in that mode. And the economy was a result of that. We had the collapse of the economy. But what's happened now is, both on the town side and the school side, we're coming out of that. And as we're coming out of that, we need to position ourselves to be ready to make changes if there is more money available. At the same time, we've been so conservative and protective of the budget that I believe that we can make some very logical cuts to our current budget for next year, specifically energy, electricity. We've been sorting out how we're gonna manage all that, and we have now a 3-year track record. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look over the last 3 years, really study and fully understand where we can make some cuts that don't affect the classroom, so that we can potentially take that money and use it for things to enhance our educational program. But I want to be thorough about it and thoughtful about it, because there are times where we might have used one-time funds to buy textbooks, and so, yeah, we didn't spend as much money that year, or supplies. So we want to be thorough about that. And so I've instructed the principals that I want them to, I'll give you an example. At the end of the year, there's always these small little lines, and there's 200 here and 1,200 here and $800 there, but they add up. They add up to a significant amount of money. And we tell them, and we've been telling them since I've been here, if you don't need to buy it, don't buy it. Don't spend money that you don't have to. What I'm going to do now is say, okay, let's say there's 80,000 of that. We still need to have some money in those accounts just in case, but let's try to get 40,000 out of that we can use for some other type of program. What also brought this on is we have a number of people retiring from our middle high school next year. And basically there's 4 positions. We have a long-term sub in one position. We have a special education teacher retiring. We have a science teacher retiring. And we have a math teacher retiring. This is an opportunity for us to take a serious look at, can we make changes within our organization to enhance all of the good things that we're already doing? And so what I'd like to form, what I am going to form, is called a vision committee. And we're gonna, and similar to what we did with developing the district learning team, but the district learning team has their own set of work. It'll be made up of parents, teachers, administrators, students at the high school and potentially middle school, but we've got to get to work on this now. And it's what the school committee has been asking for years and years and years, and I've always been a little hesitant, because we'd get to the budget season and be like, oh, here we go again. But I just have a different feeling right now that we need to have, and I think Bruce said it well to me the other day, what's our school district going to look like 5 years from now? What's it going to look like 10 years from now? We need to have a plan so that if more money comes in, we have the plan in place, and it's all laid out strategically and systematically, so that if we get this amount of money, we're going to add these programs next year, and then these programs. But we want to do it in such a way that we don't start a program and then 2 years later we can't fund it. So the more ideas, the more thoughts, the more people looking at this, the better we are. I'm very excited, but this is exciting for me. I've lived through, and we've lived through, a very difficult financial time, and that's been across the country and across all public schools in Massachusetts. I've talked to Jim Smith about this. He's finally feeling the same way I do, that, maybe we've gotten over them. It doesn't mean that we're going to be able to spend lots of money. That's not what this is about. It's about reallocating resources and maybe looking at, doing things a little bit different. I'll give you one other example. And again, these are just Ted McCarthy, Jerry Goyette, Dan DeLongchamp, others talking. If we can align the middle school and the high school a little bit better, and it's hard because you have different philosophies at work. You have a middle school philosophy versus high school philosophy, and I'm not looking to combine them at all. Still want my middle school, I still want the high school. But as an example, if you took all the science, the short science curriculum with Vanessa Hurley, art, music, physical education, those teachers teach 4 classes, and then they teach like a study skills 36-week program. Well, what if those teachers, instead of teaching the study skills, they taught an elective at the high school. And then instead of replacing, say, Donna Razuk with and by the way, this is just ideas that I want to come out of this. We haven't made any decisions whatsoever, but if we didn't replace Donna Razuk and we hired another teacher at the middle school to do something different, maybe a pathway for allied health, where kids interested in becoming a nurse or a doctor, and we could somehow start a program earlier in our school district and middle school, or an engineering teacher, or something where we're linking up our middle school to our high school. There are pathways being developed where kids see that I want to stay in Sutton because I can go through here and it'll provide me with a leg up on other students that I'm competing against. Another idea that's controversial, but we have so many kids playing sports. What if, like many districts have done now, is give credit for participating in a varsity sport or a JV sport as your athletic credit?
You already do in college.
And they do it in a lot of high schools. And it's really playing a little bit with, but a lot of are doing it. Now that creates some problems too, because if those kids aren't taking phys ed, they gotta go somewhere else. So there's some things we gotta sort out. But if our phys ed teachers taught each one less phys ed class, they could pick up the health classes and maybe the anatomy course, or maybe do a nutrition program, or maybe add another stove in the middle school kitchen on the second floor and have, what I'm looking for is those thoughts to come out.
This to me might be one of the more exciting things that we've probably done in the last 9 years. I've been, because this is something where I know I've been kind of beating the drum for this, that, so much we've looked at where do we think we'll be, where do we need to be, and I've so much wanted to look at where do we want to be. And we got to find some creative ways to really get the children excited. And you mentioned so many things in there that I think we do a great job now, but I think we can do more, and I think we can do it in ways that it'll likely excite the faculty too. And they'll get excited about the opportunity to do something a little different, still within their wheel but to me, this is just such an exciting endeavor. This is great. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, we're up against it a little bit but just talking to the administrators, we're excited.
Yeah.
If I can find,
It's not same old, and that's what we've been doing for a long
That
time,
stems
the
from
same old, same old.
the retreat conversation we had about trying to get the middle school kids once in a while into the high school and vice versa.
it started with, we saw these, but then you really think about it, we're not gonna get everything. We don't have, it's not like we have gobs of more money. That's what I'm talking about.
No, but
it's how we
you don't
utilize the money.
necessarily need more money sometimes to make great changes.
Right. So, I'm sorry, I thought I turned off this.
And the other thing too that we talked about is
McGee's calling me.
it's got to be something that this has to be sustainable. This has to be something that when we make the commitment that we're sure that we have the funding for it, that it can continue on. And I just want to interrupt myself for a minute. We're in this position right now because of the work that Paul and Nate and Kristen have done over the years with their time on the board. You were fantastic stewards of our budget in very lean times, and the work that you did have set us up to be in this position, to look forward and to make some very exciting changes to how we educate kids in this town. So, thank you.
It's the whole town. It's the whole town.
Yep.
So,
And I want to make one to Kristen's point. There are things that we're going to absolutely be able to do differently because there is money, because we have these retirements, we have savings in electricity. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And if we can cut out of areas where we know we can reduce line items and then apply that toward academic programming. I think the combination, we're gonna be able to do some exciting things over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we're calling that the Vision Committee.
Yes.
Cool.
So, I sense the excitement that there are 4 people that there are 5 people that would love to be on it. This one is going to step back and not participate on it. I'm going to let somebody else do it. But I guess we need to take some time to think about it. The other committee that I'd like to see us have is a continuation of one that Paul started last year with. You had worked on the survey and the presentation of the budget to the finance committee. I want to keep that going, but I'd like to add one more component to it, and this is something about our trying to message better with BVT. They are an extension of our school. And we need to find a way to work better and communicate better with them and they with us about what our needs are and how they can service and our students that are going there. We just have to do this in a much better way, but working with them to relay how we want to work and how we think that they can help our students a lot more than is currently.
Can I make a comment on that?
Certainly, please.
I don't know if I mentioned at the retreat, I think I mentioned one at the time, I've taken over the chairmanship of the Blackstone Valley Superintendent's Consortium. And so that's all of the districts that feed into BVT. And one of my main goals with that group over the next several years, similar to what we've talked about, we'd like to see how can we do some innovative things, and we're now at a place we're saying we're gonna make something happen. That's how I feel about the Blackstone Valley Superintendents. There's over 800 applicants for BVT, only just over 300 get in. So there's 500 kids that might have been looking for this opportunity, but let's say 300 of them really weren't interested. There's still 200 kids in our catch basin that wanted that type of an education, not getting that opportunity. And so I want to do the same thing you're saying. I want to partner and I want to talk to Dr. Fitzpatrick about, he doesn't have to worry, he's going to fill the school. What are we doing as a collective group of superintendents and communities to say, there are other students out there? What can we do as a collective group and not just say, yeah, I'm going to make that a priority. And I just think that.
But it's all about best serving all of the kids in the community, not just some.
But we'll have to be creative. I'd like to be able to work with BVT about writing some grants to maybe get some equipment collectively into the other schools to service the kids that may want that type of an opportunity. And it may mean coordinating some busing. But I'm with you. I think too long we talk about it and then we get tied up into our busy lives of running our districts. I'm going to try to make that a priority. It won't happen overnight, but I'm anticipating I'll be the chair there for many years, and that's one of my top goals, so that we make sure that the kids in Sutton who didn't get into BVT but would like at least some exposure to some type of technical education may have the opportunity, and look at the costs associated with it and see some creative ways to make it happen.
I'm guessing there are 4 people excited about the Vision Committee. Would there be anybody excited about communications committee, I guess it is?
You're so lucky you're the one who gets to make the decision here.
I'm not sure it's luck.
Frankly, there's a practical question. I like what you're doing with the Vision Committee, but I suspect where you're bringing in students, the hours are going to be difficult.
we're gonna do, what I thought is we do it like DLT. And we'll do 6 o'clock to 7:30.
Or 6 PM.
So you gotta do it a little earlier, you know, keeping kids to 8 o'clock, keeping so we did DLT, we started at 6 o'clock. No matter which way you do it, but that way people are home by 8 o'clock
Yeah.
I know that how do I wanna say this?
Can only have 2 of us show up at any given time. That's the challenge.
But can you, I don't know, Paul, so if we're gonna have.
If it's like DLT, we could. It's not, we're not
I'm
voting
just-
on anything. It's,
We're gonna break up into 4 groups probably. We'll, you know, we're gonna have each school talk about and work with their own groups to talk about what they envision happening, and then we're gonna come together as a larger group and start looking at together and seeing how the puzzle pieces fit together. But if it's a public meeting, and, you know, if 4 people wanted to do it and one with each school, that wouldn't be a terrible thing.
We can also attend as parents too.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be the first one. I'll step out of the vision committee and attend as a parent. That way somebody else can report here on how it's going.
Frankly, I don't think you can say I'm there as a parent, you're
Yeah.
a member of the committee, but I don't believe there's an issue with 4, and you could certainly preempt that by going to the
Yeah, as long
appropriate
as-
authorities and
Yeah.
just saying,
Okay.
here's the organization, here's how it's set up, what they'll discuss, and there'll be more than 2 members.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just those 2 members, 3 members, 4 members discussing things either. You're gonna have a large group of people,
Okay.
Yep.
I think.
Okay. Well, I'll let you check on that, and we can set these next meeting.
Okay?
Okay.
And
Also,
we're gonna do policy each meeting.
Yes. That's
Instead of doing it that way, we're gonna have
yes. So
was a
that's
couple of policies
Yep.
in each meeting.
Yeah, I got that coming up at new business. Let's see, the next item is to appoint the superintendent to serve on the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative Board.
You just talked about, well, you've done this.
This is different.
Several years, right?
This is something, yes.
This is different.
So
But
we'll
yes,
need a motion and,
I move to appoint Superintendent Fred to serve on the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative.
Second.
Okay.
Oh, second.
and anybody have any,
Only that's, as Nate had said, while it's different than the Blackstone Valley, it's something that Ted has served on and
Right.
covered for us and reported out for years.
terrific.
and it's only superintendents that serve on this board.
Okay.
You can, as a school committee, do it, but no one does.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Terrific. New business, agenda items, action items.
You missed the superintendent's report.
You can.
Oh,
talk
did we?
about your business.
Oh, it's not on here. You can do that right now.
We saw that, you saw that, appoint the superintendent, you thought
I
that was.
believe the student resource officer used.
Using your time up, yeah.
Let me just give a couple.
Sure.
I'll go real quick. Green Community Grant, thank you, Jim Smith, amazing, and the woman who does the work for Jim Smith, I can't think of her name offhand. New boilers in the elementary school, they're in our garage and it's going in this fall, so now our entire early learning center elementary complex has all new boilers, burners, everything, as of this fall. Not only that, they also got funding to replace all of our gymnasiums with LED lighting. Huge savings. Just to give you an idea, that will also reduce our energy usage. So this year in energy savings, we were able to save $110,000 in energy savings between oil and electric. So that's what I was talking about. This will further reduce that. Now, I say that with a caveat. Have a horrible winter and the solar panels are covered in snow for 3 months. Well, that could have a, effect on that. But those are making a huge difference in our budget. So thank you, Jim Smith. We are having some difficulty hiring. The economy is so strong. Our pay rate for SESA members, instructional assistants, cafeteria workers, custodians is difficult. We've had a number of people turn down positions when we offer them because of the pay. We are almost fully staffed, and we're working on that. But I just bring that to your attention that you know, we do have to look at what we're paying those particular people. We are in a contract year. Our English language learner teacher, Gillian, outstanding. Her husband got a new job and they're moving, and she's leaving our district. Just to give you an idea of what the shortages of ELL teachers, we posted there were 2 licensed people that applied. There were some that weren't licensed, but you really need a licensed person. We scheduled interviews for those 2 people.
Nobody came?
By the time we scheduled it, and they got new jobs. They get jobs right away.
Before they even came in.
Before they even came in, they were gobbled up because you need them. We did interview a person today, seemed really strong. We're going to have him do a model lesson on Thursday, and hopefully we will have a person in that position. And the only other, there is one other thing, and we'll put it on the agenda to vote at the next meeting along with the shirts for the custodians. Shirts for the custodians. One of the ways I've been able to try to do a little bit to competitively pay our principals, because our principals, their salaries are a little below the area, because I get that sheet. We use the grants to give them a little, and Mr. Goyette does the teacher quality grant, and they changed the requirements, and he used to be able to get $2,000. Now we can only get $400 from that grant to subsidize. So I'm gonna recommend that we increase Mr. Goyette's base salary by $2,000 at the next meeting. I think he deserves it, he earns the money, and I don't think it's fair that they changed the rules of the grant and he has to take a cut in pay because of that. And just one other final thing as I'm looking at my notes, and I don't know if I mentioned this too, we have the sidewalks that the capital fund has put out. We've put it out to bid 2 years in a row, and 2 years in a row, no one has bid the project.
Are you kidding me?
No. So
That's a good economy.
that's a good economy,
Yeah,
so.
they're doing other bigger
Well, all the
projects.
paving, they were all out straight, so the problem is that the entryways are a little bumpy. They're a little, we'll try to patch them up the best we can, but once the winter comes and the heaves start coming up, it's that problem. So they're gonna put it out to bid again, but you're probably not talking until next spring. And that's all I got. It was a great opening. Great opening.
I've got a couple of real small things. For the next meeting, could we get some enrollment numbers? I think we'll have a better feel. And one of the things we talked about last year briefly was the independent study program resulting from kids not getting elective choices. Could we get a breakdown of kids in the high school who did get their choices for electives, and how many kids didn't get any, or got at least one, or got none? That would be interesting to find out.
So you want to break
Well,
down.
we've talked about kids going into school, and we've talked about the electives, but it doesn't work out for everybody. And I personally am curious as to how many kids do get their electives and how many kids don't get, or get one and not, or how many get none. So
Cases.
how many cases? So
Yeah, I gotta find out, do they track that? How do they track that?
Okay.
Once they make changes and they get kids in, I'll find out and see if there's any way how best to report that out.
okay. We are going to start at meetings reviewing policies. I know that there was a policy committee last year, and we went through, and there were some, I think it's time to take a couple each meeting as we can, and go through them and review them and try to clean up and see if they're actually a policy or a statement, and see if we need to put any changes on it. And the last one I would ask is, I think we do a pretty good job of this, but just keep it in your back of your mind. When there are open houses or functions at the school, it's always an opportunity for us to be out to meet people and see people and hear from people who may otherwise not give us a phone call or send us an email, but would be much more comfortable coming up and asking us a question face to face. So if we could keep that in mind and try to have a little bit more of a presence and an availability, that would be great. You had said it was a SASE contract. Do we need to establish a kitty?
We do need we need 2 members to
Okay,
serve on a negotiations committee.
Okay, so we'll set that next meeting as well?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have,
Just a quick question. How's the conditioned air going? We got a couple hot ones ahead of us. so
Yeah, so
I was hoping for just a good, but
But the
Well,
laugh doesn't help.
there's a little bit to this. So, one was, we got an alert from Tom Scott, who's the president, who runs the Mass Association of School Superintendents. Because of this summer, so 2 parts to this. Because of the summer and the humidity and everything, there are a number of districts with mold in their buildings. Now, we did have a little bit of mold in our building because of the air conditioning in the early learnings in elementary. The pipes are, dripping and the insulation on the pipes. We went and we cleaned that up. But what we discovered when we looked to do the exhaust fans, when they built the district office, there were some exhaust fans that were shut off and not put back on, and then were some walls put up that created partitions for the airflow which caused some of this. So because of this, we discovered what it was. So we've addressed that issue. The middle school's conditioned air is one big, huge unit. And a motor went down. They were supposed to come last week. I was in Roger's office this morning. We called them twice. When I left to come here tonight, they were working on replacing that motor. And I asked Mr. Raymond to keep all of the air conditioning, all of the conditioned air to go 24/7 this week, just so that we stay ahead of. So when the kids come in, unless something crazy happens, our facility should be fully conditioned air and fully air conditioned where applicable.
So isn't this, the conditioned air though, it's basically dehumidified air?
Correct.
Okay. So so the condensers, all that stuff should be good moving forward.
I never,
Sorry.
I can
All right.
never commit to that.
Should've been
However,
good when they were installed.
Should,
but-
yes, they should have, absolutely. But as it
yes,
looks right now.
as it
okay.
looks right now,
Okay.
and it's a little bit more complicated here because we're in New England. So you
Yeah.
have maybe 6 weeks in the spring, 6 weeks in the fall that you're dealing with this issue, and that's part of the problem. But knock on wood, everything's going to be working and fully functioning for the start of school.
anybody, anything else?
I got a quick question. Is there any way, you're talking about being at the open houses. Is there any way we can have the open houses on the calendar?
Bruce and I met. What I'm going to do going forward, they should be on which calendar? Oh, on the district calendar?
Yeah, I was just looking, because
I'm-
that's typically where I look,
How-
because I don't have kids here.
How do invites work for you when you get a calendar invite? Like, it works great for me. If
Oh,
I get an
calendar-
Outlook invite, I add
Calendar
it.
invite, Outlook goes right into my phone, into my computer, yeah, that'd be.
Well, one thing I'm definitely going to do is going forward is one of my, Bruce gave me a lot of good suggestions when we met, and they were really, just to keep me organized a little bit, is that every meeting, we will provide you with a calendar of events over the next couple of weeks that are coming up, so that
That's
you
good,
are,
yeah.
every
I want-
meeting, you get that calendar of events, we'll put it in writing, so you have it in front of you.
Yeah, 'cause now being removed from the schools, I'm not looking at that stuff, and
Right,
so.
yeah, and,
this would be helpful.
so we will certainly do
Okay.
that for this committee, so that you're aware of what's happening.
Good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Perfect.